Now, before we start getting into some of the taping techniques that can really help support your stability and your control when you're working on these flexibility concepts, I wanted to go through all the different types of tape that there are, because I often get asked about this. Why do you use some tapes for some things and other tapes for others? So I wanted to go through them in a little bit of detail. First up is making sure that the skin is prepared. I really like the skin prep, which is kind of a wipe or a liquid that you can put on that creates a barrier between your skin and the tape. This is especially important in people who have very sensitive skin. I often find redheads tend to react to tape, so we definitely don't want to have any skin irritation if we are applying tape. A good way to check if a tape is good for you or not is to cut a little square and place it on the inside of your forearm on that delicate skin, or on your belly, areas of skin that don't get much attention most of the time. After about 20 minutes, take it off. If it's red underneath, that's probably not a good sign for that tape in your skin. We're going to look at needing some kind of protective barrier, or doing it on the top of your clothes, or looking at a more external support rather than tape. Now, the tape that most people are aware of and have been using for years is a rigid tape. So this is your good old sports tape. It has not much stretch lengthways, no stretch sideways. It has a little bit of a stretch on the diagonal. Yeah. This tape we use to restrict movement normally. So traditionally it's been used if you've hurt yourself and we want to stop you from doing that thing again. We may use it to stop you rolling over on your ankle, or if you've subluxed a shoulder, it may be using to stop you from doing that again. So this is your more traditional style sports tape. I still do use it, but I use it way less than I used to, and I find that I can often get a better result by using some of the other tapes. The other thing that I often use is what we call Fix-A-Mole, which is an under wrap. So this is if I'm using a rigid style tape, or we know we're going to be taping that area quite frequently, or for creating the removable toe thong that I make. This is a really thin tape, so it doesn't have much stabilizing properties, but it helps create a barrier between the skin and the other tapes. So this one I use a little bit for more protective layer. It also can be if we want that area to breathe. The other one that then came on the scene is K-tape, rock tape, kinesio tape. They're all quite similar. If you turn them over and you have a look, the adhesive is usually in a wave pattern. They are often more of a canvas or material type looking tape, and they have a lot of stretch lengthways. It does recoil, but it's not very bouncy. A lot of stretch diagonally, but it doesn't have any stretch sideways. Now, this tape I find is very good for offloading muscles. So say your big back muscles have been working really hard. I apply this with no stretch on the tape, but the muscle in a full stretch. This means that when we come back to a normal position, the tape wrinkles up. It helps gather up and create a little bit of wrinkling in the fascia, helps get lots of hydration and increased blood flow to that area. I find this really helpful, especially in the back. We can also use it on the neck to help give a little bit more space to those tissues. However, I don't like people going into class with this on their back because they feel super flexy and they may kick up into an extension more than they actually have. So we'll stack up over there. The one that I really like, and for using with dancers, I find this is the one I use the most, is dynamic tape. It is not the same as K-tape, rock tape, and kinesio tape. So it's a much smoother feel, yeah? It's not that kind of canvassy feel. And the biggest difference is that it has a 5-way stretch, so it actually goes sideways as well. I find this tape is absolutely fabulous for hypermobile people. This is the one that I use to help give a bit more proprioceptive feedback. I use it with the cross tape on the back of the knee to stop hyperextending. I find it really good if you're returning to class after doing an ankle injury, because you can still point and plie and do all the movements, but it just gives you a little bit more awareness of where things are. I usually use this to retrain movement and to facilitate things to go where I want them to go. So going to look at a few different applications of that one. And then the black one is just a double thickness version of that. So it's exactly the same, but it's got much more boing to it. I often use this on feet, especially if we've had very floppy, overly pronated feet. Just helps give a reminder of how the foot should work so that we can retrain it more quickly. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more of an understanding of what tapes can be used for what things. There are loads of different techniques, especially with the K-tape, rock tape, kinesio tape on YouTube. There are thousands of variations. The thing that I would say is when you are trying to decide which taping technique to use, it should feel great straight away. You should have it put on and go, oh, that's nice. It should really help position it and feel good. If you think, oh, that's a bit weird, better to take it off, try a different version or even slightly different alignment of that taping. You really want to feel like it's helping you do what you want to do rather than hindering, unless we are using the rigid tape to block movement for a very acute specific purpose. So let us know if you have any questions on those. We're going to go through a few specific applications of these tapes to help with the flexibility training. As we talked about earlier, getting good stability is absolutely vital, and some people need a little bit of external support in order to be able to progress with certain parts of the program.